Well, good evening. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? The day's work is done, and it's time to sit down and relax and have a Yingling. If you have one, go get one. If you don't, if you like something else, go get one. Sit down and join me. We're going to talk about something very interesting, I think. It's a question from one of our viewers on the YouTube side this time. I've been answering a lot from the Patreon side, but this time it's from the YouTube side. Well, I'll get his name in just a second. But it kind of boils down to this. When it all collapses, who do you save? And who do you have to prepare yourself to defend against in order to save your family? You know, that is the age-old question, isn't it? It's the question that everybody thinks about, wonders about, worries about, fusses about, and too seldom planned for, I think. You know, that's my opinion. So we'll be talking about that. Before we get into that, just a reminder that this and every one of my videos is brought to you by and sponsored by the Stone Mott series, my series of books, the complete plan on how to prepare for, survive, and rebuild after a complete collapse of everything. The reversion, the revival, the renewal, an appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and the hostages to fortune. A great series of books going to tell you everything. I could make videos for the next 20 years and not cover everything that I've already covered in these books in detail. If you're serious about preparedness and you haven't read them, you'll want to. Those who have read them will tell you it's one of the best things they've ever done for their preparedness efforts. I have people who have told me they have read through them 5 times, the entire series, and every time they find things in them that they hadn't seen before. So those are available down below. I always put the link to it over on Amazon. You can get them in paperback or Kindle, or you can get them directly from me through our website, stonemott.us. And there's a way you can put in there what you'd like. If you want me to sign them to you, what you'd like me to say, and just say, hey, Steve, write this to me, will you? Or write this to my Uncle Bob, or whatever. So those are available down there. Okay, who do we save? Who do we prepare for? Who do we not? Okay. Let me read the question here that comes from our viewer, and it's Richard O'Kane. And I do identify the ones who are on YouTube. I don't identify the ones who are on Patreon, because that's kind of a private group over there. By the way, if you're not with us on Patreon, do join us. We cover so much more over on Patreon than we do on YouTube. And like I say, if you're serious about preparedness and you're not on Patreon, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're shortchanging yourself, because it's not just the stuff that I put over there. I put the same stuff there that I do on YouTube, but a lot of extra stuff that YouTube doesn't like. And then we have just an amazing group of people over there with knowledge bases that are very wide and very, very deep, and you can learn a lot from. Okay. But I do, since this is on YouTube, I'll identify as Richard O'Kane, and it comes from the video that I shot last week, I think. It was rules for groups and, how did I put it? Rules for groups and communities, I believe. So Richard says, okay, I agree on the greatest commandment statement at 11:40 into your video. You all, I'm sure, know what the greatest commandment is, right? If you don't, go watch that or go read your Bible. But I do not share in my neighborhood about my preps at all. Okay, many people hold to that position, an understandable and a defendable position. Not one that I share, and I'll explain to you how I do it in a minute. He says, I know about 95% do not prep at all. As a Christian, how do you separate defending preps for you and your family from your neighbors that were stupid? Okay. It's not like there is not enough news out there to show concern. Once the SHTF trigger is pulled, the commandment goes right out the door in my experience. Okay. I'm going to read through the whole thing, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to address each one of these, okay? Especially when I saw firsthand what happened after Katrina. You loot, we shoot signs everywhere protecting anything they had left on their property. Not even law enforcement would pass that threshold. A sheriff friend said that they kept their distance until they knew for sure the people defending heard them. I really struggle with this as a Christian. Well, you should struggle with this regardless. I won't say you. A person should struggle with this whether they are a Christian or not. It's a moral situation. And while those of us who are believers, who are Christians, find our moral foundation in the teachings of Christ, other people also have moral. There's that plane. He's coming back. He's watching us. Oh, he's not. It's just a plane. Others also have moral foundations. So I understand you would struggle with this as a Christian because, Jesus told us, our neighbor and love our neighbor as ourselves. He also illustrated the who is your neighbor in the Good Samaritan parable. So if you are familiar with that. My brother-in-law is an attorney and has said if any person passes your door threshold in your house, you shoot to kill, period. He said it's called the no retreat rule. Yeah, it's castle doctrine and stand your ground, actually, was what it's called. And it's that you do not have a duty to retreat. And different states have that. It's different. I have no problem protecting my family, he continues, but wow, what a struggle it is to think about this. And I'll say, Richard, I completely understand. It's something that many people struggle with, okay? So I'm going to go back through that just very quickly, hit a couple of points, and then I'll fill it in with what I think about these things. Let me have one more big gulp of Yingling. Hope you have yours. Take yours now. This is a gulp break. Sounds like the airplane wasn't able to see everything they wanted to, so a helicopter is coming. You all wave now, okay? Okay, so he says he agrees with the greatest commandment, which is thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second is like it, that you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But I do not share in my neighborhood about my preps at all. I know about 95% do not prep at all. As a Christian, I'm going to lump this in and answer this as a group. As a Christian, how do you separate defending preps for you and your family from your neighbors that are stupid? It's not like there's not enough news out there to show concern. Okay, I do share my preps with my neighbors. I know all of my neighbors. Now, I haven't shared them with all. I don't know all of them, and equal to an equal extent. Many people I do share with. First off, you would be surprised, and I think I've mentioned this in a couple of other videos, you would be surprised how many people out there are preparedness minded. And I've said, if you want to see how many preppers are out there, write a book or 2 or 6 about preparedness, and they will come out of the walls. We had a neighbor that lived across the street that you wouldn't have thought she kept track of much of anything, okay? She is a prepper to the core. When she found out that I had read that book, oh man, she was all in it. She has been a prepper for years. She has lived off. Now, we live in a neighborhood where you would not think any of these people would live off grid, okay? She was it to the core. Others in our neighborhood, when they have learned that I have this interest, they also have expressed interest. So I kind of put that out there. I feel a sense of responsibility, not to chase people down, but to offer the information, offer the concern. You say that it's not as if there's not enough information out there to be scared, but people have busy lives. People care about different things. You know, they may care about things that I know nothing about, and that's taking up space in their head, and they just haven't gotten around, or they watch different news, or they don't watch news at all, whatever. They don't understand the things that are going on in the world. Some of them don't even know the things. Now, you can blame them for being clueless, but life has gotten so complicated that for many people it's all they can do just to keep their head above water and get to the next appointment and get to the next job and take the kids to the next sporting event and all this. And you can say that that's not a good life to live, and I will agree with you, but it is the life that many live. And so I don't want to keep that from them. I will express my concerns, and then if they want to pursue it, then I'm happy to, and I will pursue it as far down the road as they want to go. I don't tell them everything that I have, or show them everything that I have, or anything like that, or tell them where I'm going to go when everything falls apart. But I will allow that relationship to develop. So I think that there's that sense that, or I think that there is a Christian obligation. Now here it sounds like there's judgment coming in there. If somebody doesn't want to do that, it's not up to me to say that they're wrong. Okay, it's just the way that I do it. I will share the information, and anybody that wants to learn about it from me, they certainly can, because I'll be there helping them, sharing with them, and teaching them if they would like. I'm not going to chase them down and beat them over the head with it. Okay, so yeah, I share with my neighbors, and well beyond my neighbors. I mean, well beyond. People will run into me, and I'm always, or meet me in in whatever situation, I'm always willing to share preparedness, the preparedness gospel. And I kind of look at it that way. If you as a Christian feel that you have a responsibility, as was given us, the Great Commission by Jesus, to share the gospel, the preparedness is kind of a gospel. If you refuse to share it with other people, well, I just encourage you, here again, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. You might think about it. Excuse me, another drink of Yingling. So, are they stupid or are they not? Some are, but, some of them just haven't been introduced to it. And I've been surprised, and you will too. If you introduce people to the concept that the world can be falling apart, and a lot of them know that it is, they just don't know what to do about it. A lot of them are receptive, and some of them become very, very interested. We've had two of our customers that, after they read my books, went out and bought farms. Yeah, and at the central part of their reasoning was, in case what I put in my books happened. So you can get people on board here. Okay. As a Christian, how do you separate defending your preps for you and your family from your neighbors that are stupid? Okay. How do... I think I've read enough of that, and I'll shut this down and I'll just start answering. Okay. You have an obligation to prepare for your family. Look up 1 Timothy 5:8. Okay. He who is not will not provide for his house, especially his own household, is worse than a heathen and has denied the faith. You have an obligation to provide for your household, which is your immediate family, your nuclear family. Beyond that, you have a responsibility to provide and protect for those who you would think are under your wing, as it were. Those who can't provide and protect for themselves. I'll put it that way. Now that's not a lot of people. That comes into widows and orphans and things like that. But there are, the people who are in your sphere and may not prepare. You're not just going to throw them away, are you? I mean, you probably, like I, have family members who are not prepared. Maybe you've even talked to them about it. And yet they haven't done anything to prepare. So what are you going to do when it all collapses? and you are prepared and they're not. You know, this is one of those things that people have said for years, and kind of in a blustering tone. Well, I told them, and if they didn't prepare, it's too bad for them. They're not getting any of my stuff. Really? That's how you treat somebody that you love? Is that right? Here's where I say you prepare not just for yourself and not just for your immediate family. You have to prepare for other people, because not everybody's going to see it your way. And just because they don't see it your way on this particular thing, that is kind of, to the normal person, seems a little out there, you're gonna say, no, you're gonna starve to death. And if you come in and try to get a sandwich, I'm gonna kill you. I mean, that's what the situation is. You're not, hopefully you won't do that. I certainly won't do that. I have a lot of family members, extended family members and all that, that if it all went downhill, I want them with me. Because the only value that they bring, it's not just food, okay? They're good people, and you want good people, and that's why it's necessary for you to prepare way beyond your own needs, so that you'll be able to help other people and take care of other people. If you've read my series of books, the Stone Mount series, it starts off with a prepared family who was able to make it on their own, but then they were also able to help other people. And if you really want to get down into the nuts and bolts of the Christian faith, you tell me that's not it. So think about that. I would suggest that people not have that hard idea that, well, you didn't prep, so you're not getting any of my stuff. Because what that translates into is, you didn't prep, so I'm going to kill you. Okay? That sounds pretty harsh. You say, well, I'm not killing them, but they killed themselves by not prepping. Well, by not helping a person who needs help, you tell me what that is. If somebody's drowning, if somebody falls out of your boat, and and you even told them put on a life jacket, and they didn't, but they fell out of the boat, and they don't know how to swim, and they're drowning, and they're 10 feet away from you, are you going to say, well, I told you? Okay, you really have to take these thoughts and these arguments down to their, their long-term conclusion. And if you don't save that person, and you're able to, you have, in my mind, killed them. Okay, now, you may disagree. We will see. But anyway, what this comes down to also, and there was another good question that I'm going to address in another, and it was from Valley 56, I think. And it was about, who do I meet? Is all my group together? Who do I meet when it collapses if we're going to bug out? I'm going to do that on a separate one. But it kind of comes into this. And this is why I suggest that if it all does come down, if a collapse, like's in my book, and you don't already live out where you want to live, okay? You live in a city, a suburb, anything like that. You got neighbors around, sounds like you do from your question. You have neighbors around. This is why you get out soon. I'm going to start writing another series of books to where the people do live in a suburb, so that I can really get into address all the different personalities that would come into this. Everything collapses. Most people aren't prepared. Most people have never gone through a real emergency in their life. Most people have a tendency to think that they're far smarter than they really are, or they're far more experienced than they really are, because they have a lot of experience in the office or whatever, and their small slice of life. And when a collapse comes, it's really going to blow most people away. Most people will, immediately find themselves so far outside their comfort zone, they won't know what to do. And there will be raging, and there will be arguing, and there will be all sorts of things. So, but getting back to this, it's going to be a fun book to write, because I'm going to include a lot of personalities that I know. It's a great thing about being a writer. But back to this. This is why I say, people, if it all collapses, you need to get out the first day or two. Okay? The main reason for getting out of a suburban environment. Now in the city, and I mean the city, what is the center core of the city, it's going to explode within the first 24 hours, and it's going to be very dangerous. People are going to start dying immediately. People aren't going to start dying immediately in the suburbs. They're going to die slowly. They're going to die over time. I address that in my books also. People in the suburbs won't leave because it'll take them too long to understand that they should leave. They will keep thinking that help's on the way, that the government is coming to help, or all the lights will for some reason magically come back on, because after all, in their perfect world, this just couldn't happen. And so they will stay in their homes, and they'll kind of get together. They'll have committees, and the HOA president will come down and think that he can be in charge, and the doctor and the lawyer and the Indian chief will think that they can be in charge. And you can have a lot of really interesting interpersonal relationships and interactions that most of which I don't think are going to be very positive. And the main reason to get out in time within the first day or two is that so you won't have to deal with that, and so that you won't have to turn away your neighbors who have come asking you for food, because it is the truth that if it's come to that, every bit of food that you give someone is taking food out of your family's mouth and your children's mouth. And you could be responsible for, to be dramatic, the death of your own children if you give away food. And you don't want that, because you have been responsible and you have prepared. Now, when they come and ask, and probably one of the things that will happen is that, say in my neighborhood, a lot of people get together and say, after a few days, it's going to take a few days, and then finally somebody will appoint themselves as the leader or the boss or whoever, and they'll have a meeting, and they say, we all need to pool all of our food together, and of course the person with all the food isn't the one who will be saying that, it's the one running out of food. They've finally eaten everything in their cupboard, including squeezed everything out of the ketchup packets in the back of the drawer, and now they're out of food. Now they say, we got to all pool our food together and bring it into one spot, and then we need to ration it out so that we can all survive. Well, you as a prepper know that they're not going to survive. It's just that everybody's going to starve to death at the same rate now, to whereas you wouldn't have starved to death as a prepper, but they have included you now in their starvation if you allow that. And the only way to avoid that is to, after a day or two, hook up that trailer that you have all of your food stored in, or fill up those 3 SUVs that you have everything ready to go, and you've got your family, you've got them backed up into the garage, and you've been loading in all of your food, all your supplies, everything that you need, assuming that your vehicles run. In a case of a grid down, that could be any number of reasons. If it's a cyber attack, your vehicles are going to be fine. If it's just an attack on the grid that's not an EMP or a CME, your vehicles are going to be fine. They're going to run. If it happens, like did in my books with a CME, back when I wrote them, the general idea was that vehicles after about 1978 weren't going to run. But now they know that or they believe, let me put it that way, because, this is all conjecture. Theoretical. They believe that many vehicles will run, and it depends on whether they're kept in a garage and how that garage is constructed and all that. So if you have vehicles that are going to run, you need to head out towards your secondary location. You can call it a bug out location. Most people do. I don't. I call it a secondary location. And you need to head out. And you need to head out with everything that you're going to need to live for how long? Forever. Until you can start developing your own providence. That means, the food that you store, it keeps you alive until you can start producing all the food you need. And that takes a long time. I mean, there's a great learning curve in gardening. And if you don't garden now, you need to start. There are many people out there feeding themselves entirely from their garden. You don't have to do that. What you do have to do, I mean, it saves a lot of money, and you're eating better food than if you buy it at the store. But you need to learn how to garden. You need to go through that learning curve so that, and when you take all of your seeds that you should have to your new location, and I'll say something about that, how to set up that next location. Then you can start, and you're gonna need to apply most of your efforts to two things: security and food production, and shelter. But your shelter is probably already there. By getting out, that's what keeps you from having to make that decision of giving to neighbors or not giving to neighbors. And you haven't killed them by leaving. You have saved your family. Okay, it was up to them to prepare for their families. It's each person's responsibility. But it's going to be the worst thing in the world, because if you stay too long, and you have to turn, I write about this, I should have found it, I think it's in the first book, The Reversion. I explain exactly that if you decide to stay, that means that you have to have enough food for everybody you know, and everybody who knows everybody you know. Because as soon as it comes out that you have food, everybody in the world's coming for it. They might ask first, and if you say no, they're going to try to take it. You have to be willing to deal with that. The best way to deal with it is not be there. Okay? Another Yingling break. Now these are things that the vast majority of people really don't consider. They don't feel that it's necessary to consider. But if you have reached the point to where you are that preparedness minded, you know that they are important to consider. I don't know why I have these on. I forgot. So that's it. You know, as a Christian, you have to be there to help those who ask, who help those to the extent that you can. It does not require that you sacrifice your life. Although, you know, no greater love hath a man than he give up his life for his brother. Yes, I understand. But if it to be no good, that was to save the life. If in this situation it's just you joining them in death, in their own starvation, and that serves nobody any good. So this is why I say from the very beginning, I don't necessarily make it a secret that I'm into preparedness. I'm happy to let it out there so that people can know and they can ask me my opinion. I don't believe that sets me up to be a victim, although I know that that's been the common thought for years. Don't let anybody know, because then they'll come take all your stuff. Well, I mean, think about this. How are they not going to know? They're all starving to death, and you're still eating, and you're still looking healthy. How are they not going to know? They are. And so those are stupid arguments, to be real honest. So, like I say, I kind of, I put it out there. Now's the time, in my opinion. If your opinion differs, that's up to you. Now is the time to help people by letting them know that you are into preparedness, that there is and then share the reasons that you are. If they think, well, gee, that's kind of, how come? And then you can get into discussion. You see what's going on in the world. You see the collapse of the economy, the collapse of the banking system. You see a potential world war coming. Do you see, what's all of the things. We don't have to get into. I think that this world is falling apart, and I'm prepared because I don't want my family to suffer as a result. And you might be surprised how many people, they may not go into it full-blown like you are, but will start kind of thinking about it and asking you questions, and maybe they will start doing some things that will help their families. So I think that is the responsibility, Christian or not, at the point right now, when you still can help people get together. And I think that keeping the secret is kind of like not telling people where the life jackets are. You know, maybe you disagree. It's up to you. But that's my thought on that. I'm going to get back. I'm going to finish this Yingling. It's a beautiful night out here. Get ready for Memorial Day tomorrow. I hope you all have a good and safe one. Remember, I'll say again that maybe one of the things you want to do for people is buy them one of my books. There have been more people turned on to understanding the need for preparedness from reading my books. I've had people from all over the world tell me that they never took it seriously until they read my books. And many of it just took the first book, and then they read all the rest of them too. But when they read that first book, it changed the way they saw life and preparedness. And they saw that it was possible to become very prepared and how to do it. How to do it in a positive way. So remember, they're available both on Amazon. The link's down below in paperback or Kindle, or through our website, stonemont.us. Link also down below that you can get them autographed from me. And I love doing that. Just there's a place for you when you order it. You can just write in there a note to me, or here's what I'd like you to say in it, Steve, and if you would. And like I say, as long as I don't have to lie or say bad words, I'm happy to do it. So there you have it. I hope that answered your question, and I hope that gave some people some food for thought. If you have further questions, feel free to answer. If you're not with us on Patreon, please come join us on Patreon. It's only $1. I don't need the dollar, but you do need the information if you're serious about preparedness. And the $1 is the entry fee. It's just how we work it. It's how people on Patreon do it. And because Patreon, I'm able to put a lot more stuff over there than I can make it public on YouTube. Besides that, all of the other information that I put up, and our members over there, our patrons who are so smart and have such wide and deep knowledge bases that they share both in the comments of the individual videos and in the community section. And you guys that are already on Patreon, don't forget, check that community section. It's important. You'll get a lot out of it. You all have a good night. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. So get to preparing and help others too. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.